people just joining, we talked about it when we first started, but as you guys are joining in, please drop into the chat where you're joining from, who you're representing, those types of things, so we can see you are here. Make sure we can address you. Benjamin, Aaron, thank you guys for joining us. Benjamin, Newport, North Carolina. You're not too far from me. I'm in Smithfield. Dalton, thank you for joining us, sir.
Dalton's from right around us, so he's probably looking to steal all our trade secrets.
Well, we might have to kick you out.
Oh, shoot.
It kind of happens when you're the guest speaker. You kind of pick who you want listening to or not. So, Dalton, if you find yourself on the wrong side of this, I do apologize. It's not us. That's good. Eric, you personally know Dalton, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we've talked a handful of times. So, he was supposed to buy a trailer from us and didn't, so he didn't have the money. But yeah, I know.
Okay, guys. So I think we do have a pretty good number of people that we had scheduled in here today. Really wanted to start with audience, letting everybody know kind of what are we here for. I know a lot of people just kind of come to things. They're probably told to come to things, don't even know why you're here. So what's the purpose, right? So we're joined by two people that have recently in the 90 days started with Top Green. And so we're going to kind of go through their experience, get their take on it, those types of things. So this is really coming from what's the point of it is first 90 days of job planning. What does it look like in real operations, right? For Fay-Ark and for Eric and for Jared. So that's really the topic today. So we'll go into a lot of conversation with Jared and Eric about their experience to this point. Some of those questions that we all have when we're going to look at a new product and those types of things. So that's really the topic today. So again, like I said, I am joined by Eric and Jared. Eric is the owner of Fay-Ark. So Eric, if you please would tell us just a little bit about yourself. When did you start the business? How did you come into the business? Kind of just tell us your story, sir.
Yeah, great for all y'all to be here. And so I started the business in high school, took it full time after, and it's grown quickly. It'll be 8 years in July since I started. We've grown, and just from me in a truck to now we have 55 total team members. So that's about 45 out in the field, and then 10 on the backside, just kind of a mix of operations and sales and a couple admin and finance. We do anything from, we grew quickly on the install side, but we're now focusing back to kind of balance our revenue out with growing the maintenance quite a bit, trying to get that really triple it in the next 3 years. So it's a large feat, but we're working on it every day. So just trying to improve. But we do all residential landscape, not anything like super crazy on like outdoor kitchens, pergolas. We do kind of the basic, just a lot of walls, drainage side, and then most of our maintenance is commercial, and then we do some residential, but trying to focus on the commercial side now.
So Eric, tell me a little bit about that organic growth, right? Obviously you start out in high school, just like everybody probably intends. Like, we'll just start cutting a couple of yards, get some pocket change, and kind of tell me the growth from high school to now, and what's that time frame, what's that length of time, and kind of what has been that process to this point?
Always focused on just trying to market. It's just marketing and sales. I enjoy it. I love spending time on it. So it's just been a focus, like simply in business, it's sell work, do work, build the work, and obviously get paid for the work. So that's kind of what we focused on, is just sell work and do work, get paid on it, and keep spinning that wheel. But doing what we say we're going to do and answering the phone, like we market well, but it comes down to doing what we say we're going to do, and performing on that promise and over delivering on that promise. So just with the customer in mind, but also focusing on our employees and taking care of them, where retention isn't as big of an issue compared to industry standards. So
yeah, that's awesome. All right, so also we're joined by Jared, which as you can see is the maintenance manager for Eric over here at Fay-Ark. So, Jared, please tell me a little bit about your background, how you got into the industry, those types of things, what your experience been up to this point. Just kind of give me a little background on yourself.
Sure. So originally I grew up in Texas, went to school there, got a horticulture degree, found my way up here in Arkansas. I worked at a couple garden centers, so got some more like hands-on plant knowledge there. And then found my way at Fay-Ark. When I started, there was about 12 people, maybe 3 or 4 crews total. And then I've been working at Fay-Ark for 2 years now, and started as a crew member, made it to foreman, was doing maintenance and some smaller enhancement jobs. That was kind of my sweet spot there, but just got more just in-field knowledge there to like solidify that education I got. And then as we've grown, I took over maintenance manager last June, late June. And I think it was, Eric, I think it was like 4 crews then, and now it's 9. So it's been a lot of learning. I don't have any experience mowing, especially at this scale. So it's been a lot of relying on Eric and some of our other managers that have been mowing or grew up doing it to kind of implement that. But yeah, that's kind of my Fay-Ark story there. So.
And I think that's easy to do, right? Is where it's you've seen that having this experience is what's so valuable, right? That guy that's a 20-year veteran, the reason he's so valuable, and we'll get into a lot of this, is he's learned by doing it wrong, or he's seen the wrong thing, so he has the experience and say, hey, we're not going to do that anymore, right? And so coming from behind the 8 ball, obviously, for someone like you trying to manage as you're growing as well, right, comes with a lot of challenges. So we'll definitely get into that. Audience, do want to let you guys know kind of the structure a little bit. I wanted you to know we were joined by, but again, it's going to be about 45 minutes. We're going to spend about 30 of that having a conversation, asking Eric and Jared some conversations. We'll have some poll questions, keep you guys engaged. Very, very much want you guys to answer those. We're very interested in the answers that will come along to these questions and kind of see where your companies are. But if you have any questions as we go through, please drop them in the chat. We will have 15 minutes for more of a Q&A style. So if it can't be, we might have some people in the back end. If it's a simple question, they might be trying to answer that for you. Or again, it might be something perfectly catered for Eric or Jared or myself to be able to try to answer on the fly. So again, we're not ignoring you. We'll just try to save it for the end and be able to answer any of those questions that anybody might have. Something I did want to do is we're going to talk largely about Crew Planner, which is top green system. That is what Eric and Jared are utilizing to be able to put job plans in the field. So we'll be speaking a lot to that. So I want everybody to kind of have the same foundational understanding of what that looks like, what that is. So what I'll do here is we'll share screen. We'll briefly go over. Obviously, there's a lot of details within a job plan and all the ins and outs of it, but we'll briefly kind of go over what a job plan looks like within Crew Planner with Top Green. This is what Jared and Eric are utilizing. This is what they're seeing. So we'll jump into that, and we'll kind of give everybody the opportunity to see the actual system itself. And with that, again, so everybody kind of has more of an understanding of, again, what me, Jared, and Eric are talking to, right? So Eric and Jared, can we see the screen just to confirm we're sharing correctly here? You guys are able to see the shared screen? Yep. You guys. Yeah, it's a little delayed. So audience, again, Jared and Eric are very familiar with what we're looking at. For you guys, it's Mike. At first, visually, very much exactly what any foreman or most crew members are going to ask first time they ever go to a site, or in general, hey, where's the property map, right? So the first thing we're looking at is very simple, what we're used to giving our guys in the industry up to this point, which is, hey, what's the boundary map? Where from property stake to property stake, what am I expected? What are my service areas, right? So at first, that's the visual aspect we're getting. Crew Planner, this portion here, crew time on site, what the system can do is help you understand by each person how long they should be taking to complete the work, to complete this site. Total time, this is what we can think of if we're Aspire guys, LMN boss. This is our scheduled hours, right? This is our ticketed hours to our guys that they're able to see, that they're clocking into, or again, this is what they are This is against their estimated hours, their total hours. Dead walking, what our system actually does, if, for example, we're having someone go and do our mulch beds, right? We're spraying our weeds in our mulch beds. What dead walking is talking about is we're actually calculating the time it takes to walk between each service area. Meaning, so if I'm doing mulch beds, how long does it take for me to walk from this service area to the next, right? And so you're not just understanding the actual production it takes, you're understanding the dead walking, the actual indirect time it takes to complete this site, right? So production ratio, again, a lot of people in the industry have seen exactly what something like this is. It's a Gantt chart, right? We call it workflow charts. We can call it a lot of different things. But what this is just like I tell Jared and Eric, is this is our production assistant on the ground, right? So when Jared can't be on the sites every single day, every hour with these guys, this is acting as him, right? So what that means is if I'm crew member one, I know exactly what's expected of me from Jared or Eric when I step on this site, right? If I'm crew member one, I'm expected to grab the backpack sprayer off the truck. I'm expected to spray all the weeds in an hour and 47 minutes. When I'm done with that, I'm going to be spraying or blowing sidewalks, right? So what this allows us to do is understand what each crew member should be doing, where they should be doing it, and how long it should be taking them, right? So this allows Jared and teams to obviously have a better expectation of what property should take and all those things, right? So on this side, again, this is what I call our playbook. And I do that because that's really what it is. By service now, depending what service we need to give to this client on this week or per contract, you now have an understanding by each service. If I ask Jared to go attack all the sidewalks on this property, and now we now understand it takes an hour and 33 minutes. So guys, again, we have a lot of these little things in here that we are very useful as far as, hey, where the small things of where's the crew supposed to park at, right? Crew member 1, 2, and 3, this is how we show, right, to each crew member, what are you responsible for, right? So if I'm crew member 1, what am I responsible for? Again, if we look at the Gantt chart, he's responsible for spraying mulch beds and blowing, right? And so with this, we actually this is how we indicate exactly where his working areas are, where he's responsible for being in, what he's supposed to be doing, right? So again, I know that's a very quick overview of what a job plan is. We'll get more into, through this discussion, how Jared and Eric have utilized these types of job plans, in the field, how it's affected their operations, and how it makes someone like Jared and Eric think a little bit differently, pairing their experience to be able to make really good decisions, right? So again, really just wanted everybody to have that foundational knowledge, again, of where we're coming from. And with that, then we can obviously understand more so what Jared and Eric will be talking to, right? So again, guys, I kind of want to step back into with you guys, right? Eric, we want to take it all the way back, right, for everybody. How did you first hear of Top Green, and what made you book the demo for the first time when it came to our website?
We were at Grow conference in Dallas, Texas, and we had looked at it, seen it before, and oh, that sounds great. Last year we grew too fast to even try and focus on adding any other software. We had a lot of growth that was chaotic, and we just had to kind of get a rein on that. But this year, our whole thing has just been we have to improve our gross margin, labor and materials. Most of that is labor, and that was the biggest things. We were adding all the maintenance we're adding. It's all larger properties for the most part. So it's how are we going to be efficient? How are we going to train guys who have not done this before to have a good workflow, have a good plan, and really save hours if it's overestimated, or, hey, we know it's underbid and we need to adjust it whenever we renew. So it's really just, I know we need to save labor, increase gross margin, and that's where we're going to drive the impact in our business. You can manage, as long as you manage your overhead decently, you're not going to have bloated overhead. But your labor and obviously materials, but on the maintenance side, just labor can get out of control, and is just wanting to maintain that and maximize each crew. Yeah.
I think that as an owner, Eric, I think anyone that's listening, you just probably spoke and touched every point of what's important, right? Of proper growth. And I remember correctly, because I was in the demo with you. If I remember correctly, and we talked, me and Matt and some of the other guys on the team talk about it, is you very rather quickly within our 30 to 45 minutes in the demo were like, I want this. Like, this is something that I think can work for us. What about naming all those things, that stuff that you were looking that you needed to prove? What about Crew Planner to you stuck out that gave you the confidence to say, hey, this could work?
And it's a system that's repeatable. We want to grow fast. We want to grow eventually to multi-location, and we need a system that scales. So it's having a plan for every crew, no matter the location, no matter who the production manager is. It's just to help us have a better system on our maintenance side versus like, hey, here's the property map, go do it. It's having a plan for each person. Nope, doesn't matter if the foreman's called in sick or if there's someone else, or everyone has the same information to perform at the hours it's quoted, or ideally below.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing for me is when I was in operations, right, very much similar to Jared was no one really understood exactly what the true expectation was, right? Everybody's leaning on the 25-hour estimate, right? As this is the expectation. This is the only thing we have, this number to align on what everybody should agree upon. But again, how does that look in the field? How does that 25 hours broken up over 38 weeks, right? So I think largely, Eric, to your point, I think you obviously knew that before ever coming in with Top Green, is that variability and those things are out there. It's just, again, how can we standardize it as we grow? As we need more Jareds or more Mikes like you have, how do we do that when they're not there, right? How can we make someone make good decisions for us? So I very much agree to those thoughts. Jared, to you, prior to Crew Planner, prior to Eric bringing this to you and saying, hey, this is what we're doing, right? Prior to Crew Planner, kind of take me back to last June when you stepped into this position. Kind of what was the process for when you either won a new bid and you went to go make a plan for a property, or you were having a problem with hitting those goals on that property, if it was estimated hours or the client expectations? Kind of tell me before Crew Planner, kind of what was, Eric's process to you of how we're going to plan these sites and make them successful.
Yeah, so last June, fortunately, we didn't take on a lot of our bigger stuff until this season. So that was kind of my saving grace, hopping on mid-season last year. So last year was a lot of smaller commercial residential stuff. So I was just kind of like, off of our estimated hours, that's how I'm routing, that's how I'm scheduling. But we knew going into this season, like, there was a lot of guesswork, honestly, when I was routing, getting ready for the start of this season. We were going to have, we were set on 2-man crews. And then on our bigger properties, we would just send 2 crews there and do it. And that was making scheduling and routing a nightmare, honestly. And then Eric, came in with Top Green and was like, hey, in this Crew Planner, let's do a 4-man crew and do all the big stuff. And that was honestly our saving grace. It eliminated a route entirely. And it's just, before it was guessing, honestly, and then just trial and error, which it sucks because I feel bad if I'm putting my guys in a tough position, and my job is for them to succeed. And if I'm just kind of guessing and like just kind of, using my experience along with my coworkers' experience to put them in the best position, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But Crew Planner has like added some structure, and allows for like the repeatable process for success. So yeah.
I agree. I think for me, that what used to send me in a whirlwind all the time wasn't, like you said, is a lot of times we really can get by, we think, by experience. But the only thing that happens with that is when we have new style properties, you guys are in a very different situation than a lot of companies where you knew that, hey, we're taking on these extra properties we're not really used to doing. Our managers are not used to even planning for them. Our crew are especially not used to producing these types of properties, right? And so as you guys knew, we're about to step into a new phase that obviously only gets harder, right? And so I think you guys are in a very unique position where I think, Jared, if we asked a lot of people from even the private equity stage all the way down to, a couple $100,000 company, the production person will probably have a very similar sense of what you just said, if they're being honest, which it is guesswork. Hey, this didn't work, so we're not going to do that again, and we're going to try this. And maybe you hit it the first time, maybe you hit it the second time, maybe it takes you a whole year, right? And then the only thing that's really impacted, the only person that's impacted through that process is the client experience, right? If it takes us a year to get this curve, right, of new properties or new style client or whatever it might be, right, doesn't really put Fay-Ark or you guys in the best light if it takes a year for us to get to quality service or efficient service, whatever it might be. So, Jared, I want to talk about, because I think this is a big question that everybody, if first time they hear about this thing, is like, okay, this sounds awesome, it looks cool, right? But tell me, you're an integrator, you're an operator, working with these people that actually have to produce this, right? We can get the most perfect plan in the world, but we've got to put it into people's hands to produce it. So tell me, early on in adoption, when the first stages, with the first conversations with Christian, first conversations with any foreman or as a group, kind of tell me some of that, any pushback that you had that came from them, feedback, positive, negative. Just kind of tell me what their take on it was on a crew member level.
Yeah, I will say, I'll start with maybe some negatives of just like, it is kind of overwhelming. Looking at it on, the guys have iPads, so looking at it on the iPad, it kind of like, it just looks kind of weird and it looks intimidating. So maybe like just kind of physically operating around the map and looking at the timeline and different things was a struggle. And also just, I think trust too was part of it, where it's like, we didn't get these maps right at the start of the season. So adding them after they've maybe done them a couple weeks, they're like trying to like try something new and trust it. That was also a struggle, but it's like, hey, we're not here to just squeeze every little bit of work out of you, and you're supposed to complete this 40-hour ticket in 30 hours. Like, that's not my heart. That's like, we're here to like set you up for success, so you can get more work done in the same amount of time. So kind of explaining that. But then some of the positives too from Christian especially is that, with a 4-man crew, he sometimes gets the new guy or like the work interview guy or whatever. So he's able to show them and like give them the plan, the game plan for what the property is. And even if he doesn't remember it correctly, he can rely on the plan to like guide them. And another positive too is different foremen, maybe a different foreman has to take care of his property. He's never done it before. He can look at the plan. I can guide him, but then he gets on site, looks at the plan and has the timeline and tells his crew what to do. So that's some of the negatives. It hasn't been too bad, honestly. We got some pretty solid guys, but it is, I think, the trust and like our heart behind these plans, and like, because they see it needs to get done in less time, and that's instantly, we're bumping heads, but it's like, that's not what we're here to do. We're just here to set you up for success.
Yeah, I think at first, like we talked about, Jared, I think it's like the same thing that Eric said the first time. I was like, I can see how this can absolutely work, but how do we get people to align to it, right? And that's the big thing. I always bring it back when we talk about it, Jared. It's just like we've been telling these guys for over a decade, where PPE, right? And you still catch them without having hearing protection on, right? So again, it's one of these things that we know it's easy to revert to what we want to do or what we think's best, right? But I think the biggest thing is, when we were talking to anybody, is like, how do we get hourly workers aligned with what the goals are, something like Jared and Eric want as leaders in the company, which is efficiency, right? Obviously quality. We have to have quality to be able to retain our customers. But again, we have to make money, right? We want to be efficient. And so it's like, okay, well, we have hourly workers who are incentivized by obviously working as many hours as they possibly can. How do they align to something that's obviously trying to optimize those hours, right? And Jared, to your point, like you said, is we have to assure them we're not taking anything from you. What I'm trying to understand is your real capacity, right? So if I'm paying you 45 hours now, Eric is, right, as the owner, the goal isn't to now pay you 30. This is why we say optimize labor, not reduce it, right? Because Jared, like You've got a million services you got to provide to these clients, right? Maintenance is just one of them. And so if we can optimize and understand, hey, this guy actually only has 35 hours of maintenance, that means that we can now utilize those 10 hours, whatever's the best benefit of Fay-Ark, right, in our operations, right? So that's the goal. This is how this is taught. This is how it's spoken to. And that's how we get someone on a crew member level aligned to that, right? And Jared, again, I think you talked a little bit to it, so we'll jump into it here. But as someone who has to make a lot of these decisions, right, on the fly, that have dramatic impact of the success of our daily operations, right? And so how can a tool like Crew Planner better help solve some of these issues, like when Yates doesn't show up, a 4-man crew instead of a 3, right? Or weather, or weekly service changes, that edging versus not having to edge, or season. We got to blow leaves instead of cut grass, right? So how can Crew Planner not just help you as a manager play into all this variability that you're having to deal with on a daily basis?
Yeah. Working with you, Gates, it's been a big, eye-opening experience of hey, if we take care of our properties and get them on a schedule within the schedule almost of hard edging this week, we don't need to do it next week. How much time does that save? And then we can squeeze in another job. We can squeeze in another property or something just because of taking away, however many hours of edging on these larger properties for, and even bed maintenance too. I mean, we have some of these properties that have massive parking lots and massive beds, and it's that takes hours, of service and the dead walking too. So it's and then it's the ease of mind too on the crew itself, where they know it's been doing a good job this week. They know next week, hey, we can, we save this time too. So it's I think it helps with that and with the variability of the crew members, because we have today 3-man crew because we had to move some guys around. And in our notes, I have, top green 3-man plan for that property. So they know they don't have to guess which link it is. They click that link and it takes them to the 3-man plan. And then it just takes the guesswork out. That's just my biggest thing.
Yeah. And I think for me, when the first time I ever used this, that was the biggest thing for me, is understanding, hey, like we've talked about, that large HOA that you send 4 guys to, that one guy spends 6 to 7 hours edging all day week 1. Well, we still sending 4 guys week 2, but what's that 4th guy doing for 6 to 7 hours, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like how I spent so much time in the industry, where I'd spend months doing one job plan manually, right? And as soon as Yates doesn't show up for the day, that job plan has to go out the window, right? And so all my months of work, just based on someone not showing up, is that how do I tell who's supposed to be owning what, who's supposed to be where, right? So that on the fly stuff is what I loved about this so much, was someone like you got to deal with people not showing up. And that's going to affect not just that day, and maybe the whole week if we can't get it. It messes up all the routes. So how can we, like you said, quickly be able to give them a plan? Hey, no matter who's with you or what it looks like, this is what should be done, right? And how does that change? So I thought that was big for me. Naveen in the back end here, guys, I think, audience, we want to bring up a poll question. This is a question that, again, I think me and Eric and Jared will talk a lot about. But if on your end of things, if we could pull up that poll question, Naveen, and we'll spend some time talking about it. But really, the question itself, I think this is kind of towards the owners, stakeholders of the world, right? I think everybody should answer this question because it'd be very interesting to see what comes of it. But the question is, Eric and Jared, is as your company grows, how dependent is your ability to scale profitably on having highly experienced managers and crew leaders, right? So I'll reread that. As your company grows, how dependent is your ability to scale profitably on having highly experienced managers and crew leaders in place, right? And so the answers for that would be A, very dependent. Growth and profitability rely heavily on key people. B, somewhat dependent. Experience plays a major role. C, not very dependent. We have systems that support consistency. And D, not dependent at all. Results are repeatable regardless of who's in place. Eric, I want to kind of go to you as a growth and leader of your company. Kind of kind of answer that for me. As your company grows, how dependent is your ability to scale profitably on having highly experienced managers and or crew leaders in place to be able to be successful in your opinion?
I mean, it's all of it. Like, especially a home service business of landscaping, it's all labor. Like, if we don't have labor, nothing gets done. You just have a lot of equipment. So it's investing in them. And I think also with the crew planner, just circling back to that a little bit, is like, if your guys are producing more revenue and they're leading their team well, you can pay them more. Industry standard doesn't matter if they're producing more revenue than industry standard. So it's kind of breaking that barrier as well of like what can be challenged in the industry because of the technology that is helping our great people be better. So I think it's all about just investing in people, giving them the data and information to be the best they can be each day, because no one comes to work wanting to do a bad job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is an interesting question for you, Eric, specifically, just because we have Jared on the call. But I like this question for owners because you're always trying to align scalability and profitability, right? Growth often becomes tied directly to having the right people in place. I mean, I know that as I remember being, and Jared, you can speak to this a little bit too, but when you're a foreman on your big properties, goes on vacation for 3 weeks, you look around the room, you're like, what the heck are we going to do? Right? It's not like he left. He's just going on vacation, right? So when we talk about key people, right, that foreman, we feel that, right, as that person leaves. Like, hey, who's going to make this up? Who's going to be able to maintain these properties for just measly 3 weeks, right? So when you introduce structure around planning instead of performance, depending on your most experienced people, you now have a system that helps less experienced people, team members, perform at a higher level faster. And it's not to replace experience, is what I always say. It allows your best operators to have a bigger impact across more of the business, right? With having a tool like this that can be standardized. And so, Eric, for you, how does this hit home for when you're talking about someone like Jared, who isn't a 20-year experienced veteran of this, field, and is a younger guy passionate about this industry? How can a tool like this give him a bigger impact quicker without having to go 10 years of making all the wrong mistakes?
And it just cuts all the guesswork out of it. Because also, like, that's the thing, is there's so many young people in this industry, they just don't have the experience. But I don't think you need a ton of it now with just the information that everyone has. And as long as you track what's being done each day on some of your properties, you can go through that faster and see where the spot problems faster to fix them and really be more profitable. So just giving the visibility to the people who are passionate, who care, and want to have the willingness and just mindset of just growth, and just wanting to be better each day, and not just being comfortable at the same spot they're at for 20 years, which if that's someone, that's fine. That's what they want to do. But in leadership, you can't have that, especially in a growing business. We hire on like, yeah, the skill set's got to be there, but it's the attitude, it's the mindset. And if you want to grow, we'll get you the tools to keep moving up in the company.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, Eric, as the leader of this company and you're thinking about hiring key people, does this change at all, knowing you have a tool like this, how you think about building a team and scaling potentially, and to adding more Jareds and Mikes of the world onto your team?
I mean, it makes the pool a little bit bigger, I think. You're not stuck with like, hey, you need 5 years experience in commercial landscaping. Like, as long as you have a couple of years, you understand the information, understand the services and how we perform, and you can lead people well. You can problem solve. Once you get the information in front of you and you go spend some time with our crews, you're going to figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah, I agree to that. And so, Jared, kind of your take on that. I mean, obviously I use you as an example to your own boss, so sorry about that. But I mean, for you, I think when we first started working together, I think you were pretty upfront with me. You're like, hey man, I don't have this lengthy experience of like, I know everything that needs to happen. Like, you're pretty upfront with me about that. And I was like, great, you're going to do it, you're going to love it then, And so kind of your take on, which as far as crew planner and you being able to feel a better manager, or better at your job, like you said, your priority is to put people in successful positions. So do you really feel like crew planner has helped you as a manager be able to pivot there to, maybe give you a little more of an advantage with talking to crews?
Oh, 100%. Because like, I feel like I can relate to them better than just barking orders almost of like, hey, this needs to get done at this amount of time. It's like, hey, I understand this is a big property and it takes you a long time. Like, I just feel like I can relate to them, and understand how hard it is their job is, and just help them work out the kinks of whatever process they do on site. So just that relatability with the guys that I work with every single day, it's huge.
Yeah, and I think that's a key point because it's very easy for someone like Eric to say, Jared, you need to make sure this person's doing this thing and this didn't go right. You need to change this thing. And that is our responsibility. But again, we work with these people every single day and we really need them. We rely on them heavily. I mean, I'll be honest about it. And more times than not, I think where we go wrong, Jared, is like we've talked about, is we leave the decisions in their hands, right? They get to the site and it's up to them how they're going to divvy up work, who's going to do what, and how long they're going to take, right? Even if you tell them the parameters 25 hours, before we were saying you've got 25 hours, figure it out, right? And now it's like no longer that. Here's 25 hours, but if you do these things, it's exactly how you're able to do it in 25 hours, right? And so it's not much more where I felt like, before Jared, it's like, does it really take him this long to spray all the weeds, right? Or is he being lazy? And so you only really had two vantage points. Are you being lazy, or are you using your time well, or does it really take longer than that? And that was the only 3 points to make. And if you take the first two, that person you have to work with every day might not like you as much anymore, right? So it's very hard to be in that position. I've been there where you're trying to keep some commonality, some friendship, or some sort of, be able to talk to this person, but also like, hey man, I don't know if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Now crew planner lets everyone understand what's the playing field, what's the expectation, right? So Naveen, please upload that second poll question here. This one's going to be more to our operators in the industry, operation managers, production managers, maintenance managers, whatever you call. I think this question could be put up in everybody's L10. And so it's when a job goes over estimated hours, which happens daily, what's the common explanation, right? And so I'll lean in for you. And so some answer options we have is the estimate was off, the crew didn't perform to standard, we did not have the right plan, or we don't have enough data to determine which is the most caused reason, right? So again, question is, when a job goes over estimated hours, what's the common explanation? Is it A, the estimate was off, B, the crew didn't perform to standard, C, we did not have the right plan, or D, we don't really have a way to determine which way it is? So Jared, if in your experience since June, when you're looking at stuff being clocked in, clocked out, and you see stuff going over estimated hours, what, if you had to pinpoint in your knowledge of this up to this point, what would you say it was? Was it the estimate most of the time? Was it the crew didn't perform, or we didn't really have the right plan, or we don't really know?
Yeah, it's always case by case. It seems like there are some where like maybe the estimate is low because we didn't estimate it right. Whatever, we miscalculated. I do think it's a mixture of maybe not having the right data and the crew not performing to their highest capability. And it's also, it's always case by case, but always the crew, it's like, man, we don't have enough time to do this job. There ain't no way. And it's like, well, like, did you see that? And then you got discouraged and then you didn't perform because you already thought you lost, so it's like, you know what I mean? So it's all attitude, mindset, sometimes, and then it is case by case, but we try to work with our guys and just really explain and be upfront, like, hey, we're not here to set you up for failure. That's not what we're about.
And I think, Jared, you said it perfectly, because I think I like these questions. Anytime I sit in an operations room, I always like asking this question when I would lead them. And it was because it reflects what everyone deals with daily. It's not even on a monthly basis or quarterly basis. Hey, we're going over hours. It is day to day. We could be doing really good for 16 weeks in a row on this property. Nothing changes. And for some reason, we start going over, right? And I think the real answer really depends on who you ask, right? So meaning what I say by that is, if Eric went and asked his estimator, what was the problem while we went over on this site? He's going to say it was the crew, it was the plan, or it was the client, right? If you ask Jared, he might say it was the estimate or it was the crew. And if you ask the crew, they're going to say it was Jared, he didn't give us the right plan, or the estimate's wrong, right? And the whole point of that is everybody just starts pointing at each other. And the only problem with that is without a standardized job plan, right, that crew planner can give you, it's difficult to separate. Is it the plan? Is it the execution? Is it the estimate? And if we can't consistently answer that, which is it? Is it the plan, the execution, or the estimate? We can't consistently improve, right? We just sit there pointing at each other and we don't really know where the root cause of the problem is. And when we can't figure out the root cause, we're stuck in the mud, right? We're not really going anywhere. All we're going to do is keep trying, and we're just going to keep sinking, right? And so that's really where I think that crew plan, when it comes to why is it so important for production, it allows you to take two of those things out immediately, right? It allows you to understand, hey, our guys know the expectation. Our guys know exactly what they should be doing. And so it's easiest to identify if you're try of that, right? So I wanted to ask Jared, before structure, I mean, how often were you dealing with that, and what's different about it now? So, I mean, obviously you talked a little bit about, obviously it's case by case basis. So I think that's a large part of your answer, but when it's case to case basis, what's really the actionable change? What were you doing before to try to be able to, revert them to get to the hours or whatever the problem was?
Yeah, I would, when it comes to, when a foreman comes to me and is like, hey, there's no way we can get this job under time. Mm-hmm. I look at how long we've been there, where were the previous times, and try to base something off that. And then I ask them, like, what's your process here? Where do y'all start? Does your crew member know what he's supposed to be doing? And try to figure out what's really going on there. And there are some things they tell me that I was like, okay, we can't be doing it this way. However y'all are doing it, it's not working. But it's also back to your point of like, hey, if you hard edge and take care of your beds these first 2 weeks of the month, if you don't have to hard edge, that's how you shave that time off. And you take care of the beds weekly, that's how you shave that time off. Like, that's the goal. We understand the first month, like, you're going to be over or right at time. We understand that. Or if we take on a new property, we understand that. But if it's like you're just like over every single time, then we got to see like, okay, what's the process here? What's going on? And there are some properties that it's like, oh yeah, we totally botched that one. Like, we know we messed that one up. So it's like, we understand, we know, like, try your best, of course, but like, there are some that we've messed up.
Yeah, and I think now it's like we keep saying is, it reverts you back to the job plan. When we fall short, hey, this is the way we can ensure we don't fall short, right? And if we have feedback on the plan, hey, actually this needs to change. That's where that ownership comes in for these crew members, where they can see it reflected. Yeah. And lastly, Eric, I want to, as an owner, when we're talking about this question, and a leader, how important is it to be able to identify, hey, is it the estimate? Is it our execution? Is it our plan? How important is that to be able to scale and to be able to be profitable, to be able to identify that factor?
I mean, you don't scale if you don't identify the problem, because you're stuck in the same thing, just with new properties, and then you lose those properties to quality, or you just lose money on them. So then you have to raise price, and then it's bid out, and you maybe don't get it when it renews. But it's just identify the problem, find the actual root of the problem. And if it got underbid, okay, we got to dig into bidding in our bid process. Or it's, hey, it's not being produced on time. Okay, why is it not being produced? And we go on site, kind of watch them and see, like, just kind of find out if it's the plan, if it's the people, if it's the equipment, like, just find the root problem and fix it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think with that, guys, I think we have obviously we spent a lot of time, us three, talking about this topic and how crew planner divulged. So I want to open it up for anybody that has any questions. I know we went a little bit over. You did get 3 of very talkative people together, so that was probably going to happen regardless. But anybody that has any type of questions, if it's for Jared, if it's for me, if it's for all of us, if it's for Eric in particular about his business and those types of things, please shoot them over. We'll try to answer them to the best of our ability. I see we already have one, and it is probably what any owner immediately wants to know. What you wanted to know, Eric, is, hey, what does it cost? How long before we see a return? How do you measure the return on investment? What does crew planner cost? It'll be pretty upfront. It is a branch pricing, so we do not do it by property. We do not do it by acreage, and a lot of people assume that way. It is done by a all-in collective branch cost, and what is it is a $13,000 annual cost for the first year. And what that includes is plans for every single property that you have within your portfolio. And something else that we really didn't get much into, which is on the back end of this, is how do you confirm these job plans, right? And we actually have a second part of our business, which is Crew Intel, and which is it's our verification tool to these plans. And so within that cost, you would actually get 5 tracking vests that will show you the actual production that is going on in the field, so you can compare that to your plan to see where you're going awry, right? So that is a pretty overarching about price. Return on investment, I think Eric talked about this a little bit at the beginning, and you can look in a lot of different ways. Is it strictly from our estimated hours? So, hey, you estimated 20, we can get this property done in 15 hours. Over 38 weeks, you save 5 hours a week times 38, right? That's your return on investment per property that way, or exactly like Eric leaned into, which is what if, again, it helps you understand how many more hours do I need to be able to be as profitable as I need to be, right? So if I have an estimate for 20 hours, Crew Planner says you need more like 25 every single week to be able to produce it, right? Again, having that information, instead of just saying 3 to 5% for inflation to your client, you can go to your client and say, here's the real data. This is how many hours I need for the increase to be able to continue business with you, right? So there's a lot of different ways that return on investment come. To talk a little bit about hours and things like that, I mean, we've seen it very, very extensive. And to, again, where people are more like, hey, please help us get our contracts in line of where they need to be, right? Second question, what data do we need to have before we start? How accurate are the production rates? Are they generic, or can we customize? Can it be pulled from our existing job costing or estimating software? We'll start with the first question of that. What do we need to have before we start? Just like Eric and Jared can talk about a little bit here, really all we need from you guys is an understanding of what your property addresses are, and your estimated hours. And if you've got a boundary of the map, we really don't even have to have that. Really, all we need at the front end is to understand what your property addresses are, what your estimated hours are, and we can input them into the system. And that's where we start working with people like Jared. Where, Jared, can you speak a little bit to our weekly, bi-weekly meetings and kind of what we're doing in those, as you being the production guy and the champion of this? Kind of what does that look like? What are we doing when we're going over these job plans? Kind of tell the audience.
Yeah, so Yates and I meet weekly, and I'm constantly adding properties, so we'll go over the accuracy of the top green Crew Planner maps and how accurate they are to our maps. And if I've been there on site, so I can tell them, hey, this is actually a rock bed. We have to trim this. We can't fit a 48-inch mower back here. We need a push mower. So we can customize that in real time and fix the plan.
That real boots on the ground work that you have to do. That's what Jared's giving me, right? He's giving me, hey man, we cannot get a 36-inch in there. We got a push mower, right? Exactly like you're saying. How accurate are the production rates? I'll be honest with you. We use pretty, to begin with, when we start working with a company, like when we work with Jared and Eric, we use pretty standard industry production rates. What I say, conservative, because we've seen when we use our verification tool that we have a good insight of across the country of the teams that we've used, what's a good average for like a 48-inch mower, what's actually being produced in the field, right? But when we initially work with anybody like Jared, we do very conservative production rates. in the idea that Jared's team can beat them, right? So what I'm trying to give him at the start when we start is, hey, this is the ceiling. They should never have to go over these 10 hours because I know they can produce under it. So then allows Jared to control the ceiling of the hours, right? There's no excuse for us to go over this. So, but to answer you, the production rates are customizable. If you have your own production rates, you can go in, you can edit them, you can change them to whatever you would like, right? To answer that. Go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
So like for us, we have yet to actually get production rates and kits into Aspire. Our plan is to gather data this year, get that implemented over the winter, and then we can refine that. So it's a good starting point. And also with the amount of new crews we have, I'm glad it's a conservative one because like our veteran crews, they could probably get it done quicker. So I mean, I think that's just change it out, but you don't want to go crew by crew and get too in the weeds with it because then you're setting them up for, oh, it should have been 10 hours and they got it done in 14. Well, why? And it's just new people. It's just understanding that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make, Eric. The next question, how is it different from Aspire LMN? It is completely different. It's not a scheduling software. It is not a routing software. It is not anything for your account managers to upsell into. It is nothing like that. What it is a production tool. So it's the first time that Aspire is for your account managers, your business developers, your branch managers to get KPIs and all those things, right? But there's nothing really in there that is to help production people to be successful, right? And so what this is a production planning tool. This is a tool for Jared to take, for him to say, hey, not that we just got a 25-hour estimate and that's what the parameter is. We got to get it done within 25 hours. He actually now has a plan to be able to produce exactly what this property takes, independent of his estimate, right? And so meaning as good as your job plan is for most people up to this point is as good as your estimate is, right? We work independent of that. This is a production plan for Jared to be able to get his crew members to be able to produce to the expectation in the field. So very different than Aspire and LMN. We already use a scheduling software. Why isn't that enough? Couldn't see a major difference. We probably didn't do you justice if you didn't understand that this wasn't a scheduling software. As far as us, it's really not. It's not anything as far as schedule. It really can help you with understanding your schedule and your route, though, right? Because what it does is understand per your route, what's your real capacity, right? You're paying these guys for a 45-hour week. We say you can optimize it to 35 hours, right? So what we're doing is actually, depending on the route you have now, we're planning each individual property for you to understand the total hours and the total capacity of that individual crew, right? So it doesn't better optimize their schedule. It doesn't trim down their windshield time. That's not what the system's doing. It is actually a production tool for in the field to be able to produce and optimize each individual property that your teams produce, right? Michael said, how does this scale for 400 plus properties and multiple larger properties, 20 plus acres of turf, and 300 plus yards of mulch, for example? We have not found a cap yet. I just recently did a 782 acre HOA for a company. So we do multi-branches at this point. We've got some guys that have 300 plus properties within Planner at this point. So as far as the scale, again, it's like Jared and Eric are doing now. We started with one crew, one location with Jared, right? And the hope and the goal is by the end of this year, Jared will have every single property planned, ready to go. He can pull it at any time. And as Jared kind of leaned into, this can help him better route and schedule at the beginning of next year, right? I understand every single property, how long it should take. I know this is a better for 3-man crew rather than 4, right? So I'm not going to send 4 guys here. This is a 3-man crew now, right? So we haven't found a cap yet. We honestly have more people that come to us with the 700 plus acre places than, hey, here's our normal portfolio, right? We use property intel, near maps integration, Aspire for aerial maps that update every quarter. How often do your maps update? So we actually partner with Site Recon. They do our measuring. And so what we're doing as far as being able to understand measurements of mulch beds and turf areas and things like that. That's who we're using for that. I would assume, I don't know exactly the duration of time. This could be more of our tech person side, but it is being updated with satellite imagery just as much, I would say, that, property intel is, right? Because it's site recon. So we haven't run into the old imagery thing, satellite problem too much. But to this point, that's that.
So I'm going to answer Michael's question about integrating with Aspire and API.
Yeah.
So Jared, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're just putting the crew planner link in operation notes on Aspire for the crew to use. So that way it's not in the work ticket notes. We just put it in the operation notes. That way everyone has it for that set property.
Yeah, it's a good point to make. That's exactly how I used it as well. Is I did like Jared. He's giving the QR code. He's putting it into, when they go to clock into the ticket, it's there. It's exposed to the crew. They can be able to view it that way from their electronic device. If it's a iPad, if it's a telephone. But like we talk to Jared all the time, leave zero excuses. I printed out every single one of them. It's in their trailer with them. So when they get to the site, just like it's a standard operating practice. As soon as they come off the truck, before they even grab a piece of equipment, it is the foreman or the crew leader's responsibility to be able to say, crew member 1, this is what your responsibilities are. This is where you're going, right? And so again, you kind of throw off that curve as well. I'm not good with tech, or my phone died, or I don't have service. You got the physical copy with it, right? So again, not leaving that excuse. I see Sashi, someone put Eagle Maps 3 months, not necessarily sure what that was referencing. Oh, he was giving me the answer. Every 3 months is when to answer the question before about the updating of the maps. It's every 3 months that the satellite imagery is updated.
And I think Eagle Maps is in property intel as well. So
yeah.
On Michael's question for revenue per hour increased, it has, and the crew that has it fully implemented, they're our highest revenue per hour maintenance crew. So for all the mowing, they're the highest, and I think they compete with our bush trimming and horticulture team as well. I think like they're basically neck and neck with the highest producing revenue crew now, and that has gone up. I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but I want to say roughly $15 an hour in their hourly rate since actually implementing it.
Eric, thank you for that. I do appreciate you giving a little insight to that as well. I mean, I think when we, I think when we talk to people first and we start talking, I think it's easy to be like, yeah, I can see where this works. But, then we start telling stories that we've done up to this point from, 210-hour property a week and optimizing it to 95. And someone's just like, that's not possible. Like, it's not real, right? How have we cooked up 100+ hours that we're not utilizing to our advantage, right? But it's just like the incentive we talk. Hey, if you give an hour worker 40, and that's the parameter, probably going to take 40. Not going to stop at the 32nd hour and come back at 3 and say, Jared, I'm done. I don't want overtime this week, right? It doesn't really happen, right? So why does this matter? Why does this help? Is because if Jared can understand that based on these types of services, which we're doing week 1, this is the actual amount of hours I should be giving to the guys. No matter if that's on the other side of the fence of your estimate, right? Like we've talked about, Jared, is, hey, if we're close, we can make it happen. But if it's like we're egregious 10 hours, 20 hours, whatever it might be over that estimate, what we're talking about then is how can we keep the quality high and retain this property without suffering the most, right? So instead of giving that 20 extra hours every week, can we reduce it by 50% and keep the quality high, keep the customer happy until we can fix that contract, right? Because at the end of the day, that's Jared's main goal is retention. I've got to be able to retain these properties. We've got to be able to grow. I can't do that if I'm losing as many properties as we're gaining, right? So again, independent of that estimate, being able to be a production person that can use this to be able to make those decisions on both sides of that fence, right? Anybody else out there while we've got Eric and Jared have anything for these guys or myself to answer before we hop off here?
I would just think like the biggest thing, like before scheduling, like we had, I think, 8 or 9 routes. And then with the 4-man crew, understanding that if we are efficient, we can be productive with a 4-man route. Like that honestly saved us so much headache.
Yeah.
I mean, saved me maybe more headache than others, but like Christian, he leads that 4-man crew. He's been efficient. He's been on it. His quality is there. It's just been a very useful tool, and it saved us a truck too. So it's like that expense too is massive. So it's
I
just
think
been a
that's
helpful
the big
tool.
thing, Jared, is when we talked about earlier, it was like, hey man, we're gonna have to buy another truck and try to find and hire another foreman. And I'm like, well, hey, let's look at this. We might have the capacity with the people we have now to be able to actually get this done, which is the whole purpose of this tool, right? Because we don't have this endless stock of foremans that we can go hire, or we've got to buy another truck and a whole suite of equipment to do, just one more property, right? I think there is one more here. It says, do maps and workflows get updated as scope changes? Can this pull from Aspire estimate into Top Green? So we're not pulling directly from the Aspire estimate. Usually what we do when we're talking about estimated hours is we're just using that as our baseline as far as understanding where you need to be profitable. What this is, though, is very customizable sandboxy tool, right? So meaning what we were talking about, hey, what does it look like when I need to basically do a full service week 1? Week 2, I'm in a market where I don't need to edge the second week as well, right? So without having to do that, or what if Eric wants to say, well, this whole property has 20 hours of bed maintenance, right? Well, I can't give that to this. That's, 2 guys all day that would have to be here and do bed maintenance every single week. And so what it allows for Jared to do is be able to control the labor he's giving the property, but also giving high quality results. Meaning, hey, what about week 1, we do 25% of the mulch beds and we edge. And then week 2, we don't need to edge and we'll do another 25% of the mulch bed. So we'll spray the entire property in a month, right? So with that way, with using pre-emergence and stuff like that, we should be keeping quality pretty high, right, on such a large site. And with that, it allows Jared to really understand, based in a month, what is my actual hours that I need to get to this property based contractually on the services that I have to get. So to your point, say you have an HOA, as it expands in land development, there's another added to this contract, easily to add into the crew plan. Or, hey, we actually don't do these 6 people's yards anymore, easy to take them out of the plan as well, right? So very customizable, very easy to be able to change the workflow, get updated scopes changes as it changes, those types of things. So I think I really wanted to conclude I know we talked about a ton here, but if I could put it into a paragraph or so, I think as we wrap up, I think the biggest takeaway from today is what you've seen through Eric and Jared's experience, right? Crew planner isn't just about creating plans. It's about creating clarity, right? Across the entire operation. It's what's allowed Eric to step back and make more confident decisions. It's what allowed Jared, even early in his career, to step in and operate at a higher level faster, right? Instead of relying on that instinct, which we've talked about, or that experience we've talked about a lot, they now have a structured baseline that helps them understand what's actually happening in the field, what's working, what's not, and why, right? The biggest one, why? And that's really the opportunity for, I think, everyone to move from reacting day to day to running more a consistent, scalable operation where your people are supported, your decisions are clear, and for the Erics of the world, your business can grow with confidence, right? So I do want to thank both of you guys heavily for being here today. I think it was a great conversation. I think that having you guys' point of view and your opinion is very valuable, and also want to thank you guys for being great partners with Top Green. So really appreciate you guys' time.
Thanks for having us. And if anyone has more questions, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and just reach out, and I'd love to talk if you want to talk more about it.
Awesome. And Eric, I do appreciate you for that. But again, if anybody's looking to kind of take the steps that Eric did, I don't doubt if you wanted a person in the industry to talk to you more about it, he's the perfect person for it. And secondly, visit topgreen.com, book a demo, give us a chance, just like Eric did. We'd love to talk you through it, show you more, go more in depth based on your operations and your specific company. So please visit us. And if you check the chat, that's where the link will be there. But again, Jared and Eric, thank you guys greatly. I really appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you.
All right, bye.